Good afternoon all, or morning in fact. It's been a long day. Thank you all for being here, and indeed I am honoured and immensely excited to be elected today by my parliamentary colleagues to lead the Liberal Party and become Tasmania's 47th Premier. And it's a great privilege to have the support of my colleagues and to continue the incredible work of my predecessors, Premier Peter Gutwein and Premier Will Hodgman before him. There is absolutely no doubt in my mind that Tasmania is a better place for Will and Peter's commitment and leadership over the course of the last 8 years. Peter steered Tasmania through one of the most challenging years in recent history and has put in train a bold plan for our future. And I believe I speak for all Tasmanians to thank Peter for all he has done. There is absolutely no doubt, in my view, and of all Tasmanians, he was a very committed leader, an inspiring leader, and I wish him all the very best, his wife Mandy and his family. I'm very pleased today to have Michael Ferguson with me to serve as our Deputy Premier and Treasurer. And I thank Michael for his support and encouragement. I value Michael's experience, Michael's economic and infrastructure credentials, and his very strong work ethic. And like myself, Michael has a real sense of duty to serve the people of Tasmania, and I congratulate him. Together, working alongside and with our colleagues, we will continue to soundly manage through the COVID-19 pandemic and prioritise the plans we have put in place to grow opportunities and increasing opportunities for Tasmania, while ensuring Tasmanians have the support and care they need where and when they need it. Our economy right now is one of the strongest in the country. We have more Tasmanians in work than ever before, including more women. Our unemployment rate is some 3.9%, below the national average. And I'm very proud to be part of a government that since 2014 has created some 31,000 new jobs, and we have halved the unemployment rate. We have growth in retail, tourism, spend and private investment, while exports have hit a record high. And we will work hard every single day to ensure Tasmanians have that opportunity of going about their daily lives and ensuring they have the opportunity of a job. And we will ensure that the very strong momentum built up over the course of the last 8 years, which has been a hard slog, we will continue that momentum. At the same time, and enormously importantly for all Tasmanians, we are investing in the areas that matter. We're investing record amounts into health, into education and to housing. And we have taken steps to harness the state's competitive advantages to ensure we have a diverse and a resilient economy, attracting investment and growing jobs so that all Tasmanians have the opportunities to achieve their goals and to succeed. It is my plan to lead a government with integrity, a government that is courageous, accountable, delivers on its commitments, But above all, I will lead a government with heart. A government that listens to Tasmanians' needs and ensures Tasmanians' priorities continue to be our priorities. A government that continues to invest heavily to transform our health system right across Tasmania to be more responsive and accessible, so Tasmanians who have that fundamental right of accessing the best possible health care that they quite rightly deserve when and where they need it. Mental health and well-being is important to me. My background as a Lifeline telephone counsellor in my early 20s and late 20s helped shape the person that I am. And I became enormously committed through that experience, that lived experience, listening to people, vulnerable people who had nowhere else to turn. How important our mental health and well-being is, and how important it is that we can continue to reform, to innovate and to invest in mental health and well-being across Tasmania. I know it leads to more happy and fulfilling lives, and that's what I want for all Tasmanians. The importance of health and mental health, to me, is so important that I'll be retaining the portfolios of health and mental health and well-being as Premier. I'm very proud of the achievements over the course of the last 8 years, and I'm very proud of the innovative reforms and investment that we are making to ensure we do have the very best health system across the nation. Additionally, we are getting on with the job of delivering the biggest ever housing commitment in Tasmania's history, to unlock more land and options for development and transform the way we build social and affordable housing, building 10,000 homes in 10 years, while ensuring there are more options for Tasmanians to access home ownership than ever before, while taking action to put downward pressure on rental costs. I've said time and time again publicly, every single Tasmanian has that fundamental right to be safe and to have a roof over their head. And we've taken enormous strides over the course of a number of years, and we have very, very clear plans ahead. No Tasmanian should be sleeping rough. We want to ensure that all Tasmanians have that fundamental right to be safe and have a roof over their head. As former Education Minister, I am passionate and remain so about the importance of education as a passport to a healthy and successful life. And together, with record investment into education, we have bolstered trauma and needs-based funding in our schools to ensure that no child is left behind. We have worked so hard to improve our literacy and numeracy rates in Tasmania, our retention rates, and we're making progress through those investments and the reforms, such as the reforms of the 11 and 12 extension of high schools. But there is so much more we can do, and I want to ensure, as I wanted to ensure as Minister for Education, but as Premier, our education system should be a system based on equity, where there are no barriers to education. We've worked so hard to ensure that right across Tasmania, irrespective of your background or the circumstance that you're in, you have that fundamental right of access to a good education. And that's why I'm very proud of the reforms to support students with disability and that needs-based funding, which is now being thoroughly implemented. We must make sure that this support starts from before birth. So we must ensure we continue implementing Tasmania's first ever child and youth and wellbeing strategy to give our young people the best chance in their early years. There is absolutely no doubt in my mind that every dollar spent in education and support for families in the early years pays enormous dividends later on in life. And I'm very, very proud of our achievements in education, and they will continue. It remains our priority, of course, to have safe and inclusive communities. And we are steadfast in our commitment to righting the wrongs of the past, including through the Commission of Inquiry into the Tasmanian Government's response to child sexual abuse in institutional settings. Deeply committed to that, and very proud of the fact that the Department of Education, when I was Minister for Education, started that process. I'm also deeply committed to delivering a pathway to treaty and truth-telling in deep consultation and through an Aboriginal-led process. But we know to invest in all areas that matter to Tasmanians requires a continued focus on keeping our economy strong and enabling Tasmanians to succeed. We will continue to prioritise creating further diversity and resilience in our economy, backing small business, leveraging our enviable climate-positive profile through delivering job-creating renewables projects, including Marinus Link, green hydrogen and battery of the nation. Being a place with the most ambitious emissions reduction profile will deliver enviable reputational and brand benefits for Tasmania and everything we offer and everything that we produce here, including our advanced manufacturing capacity, hospitality, tourism, science, irrigation, agriculture, aquaculture and resources. Being Tasmanian and the Tasmanian brand has never been so quietly powerful. What we've been building for a century is what the world is looking for. Premium products produced with renewable energy. And I firmly believe that our trade, small business, tourism, talent and investment attraction are all underpinned by our community and culture, and we'll continue to nurture what we are so proud of and what is so uniquely Tasmanian. And while the future for our state is bright and full of possibility, I know that there is still a lot of work to do to ensure that everyone benefits. And my vision for Tasmania is simple. It is to be a place where everyone feels valued, feels included, feels encouraged and is supported to be the best that they can possibly be. I love Tasmania. I love our people, all Tasmanians. I was born here. I was bred here. I farmed land here. And I will do everything I possibly can in my role as Premier to ensure that Tasmania seizes every single opportunity possible. Tasmania is utterly, well and truly in my blood. And I firmly believe that through bold ambitions and the responsible budget management, which has been the hallmark of this government since we were elected back in 2014, we can lead with both our hearts and minds to secure the future that benefits all Tasmanians. And this means having the essential wraparound community services and a health system that benefits everyone, while also investing in opportunities that give generations of Tasmanians a better future. There is no reason why Tasmania has to miss out on anything. We have demonstrated that we can take our place at the national sporting stage, and Peter Gutwin, to his great credit, has been instrumental in getting us as close as we have ever been to securing an AFL licence, and I am determined to finish what he started so that Tasmania has its own team once and for all. On a personal level, I would like to thank my wonderful family, my wife Sandra, who I mentioned in my first speech in Parliament back in 2002, and spoke about our desire to live and raise a family. And I'm enormously proud of Sandra, her achievements, and raising three beautiful daughters, Ruby, Lucy and Holly, and they all mean the world to me. Over the weekend, I'll be taking time to discuss with my colleagues the roles and responsibilities, and I'll have more to say on this next week. I look forward to serving and working for Tasmanians as Premier with an energised, a unified and an enormously committed team. Thank you. And before I take questions, can I also acknowledge, with respect to COVID, that I can confirm a man in his 90s has passed away at the Royal Hobart Hospital, and of course I offer my sincerest condolences to the person's family, friends and loved ones.
Firstly, congratulations on becoming the next Premier of Tasmania. We had Peter Gutwin standing here a little over 2 years ago promising to lead a government of compassion and talking through a lot of the same priorities you have now. The Liberal government's in its third term. How will your approach differ? How will we actually deliver on these things that you say are priorities, better health system, better education results?
Well, we are delivering. We have delivered enormous amounts, and I'm going to continue that investment and that priorities. I've spoken about my commitment to be courageous. I've spoken about my willingness to be innovative in terms of reforms, and I've spoken about the key priorities. And our key priorities, of course, is to ensure the economy, the momentum that we've built up, the 31,000 jobs that we've created over the course of the last 8 years. That momentum continues, that investment continues, and those dividends, of course, enable us as a government to invest in the areas that Tasmanians all care about. And I know that we have some work to do, despite the investments, despite the reforms across a number of areas. I'm not saying that we are finished. We have a lot more work to do, but we do have those plans very clearly ahead, both in education, in housing, and of course the reform of our health system, of which as Premier I will lead.
Elise Archer made a pretty well-argued bid for her candidacy as Deputy Leader. Why did that position not go to a vote today? What happened between day before yesterday and today that changed that position?
Ms Archer, Elise, of course, who I've worked alongside for many, many years now, expressed an interest in the Deputy Leader position. Elise did not nominate today. There was one nomination, of course, which is Michael, and both Michael and myself were unanimously elected. For me as leader, Michael as Deputy Leader, and I'm a big fan of Elisa's commitment. I'm a big fan of the enormous amount of work that Elise has done, the reforms that Elise has done. The leader and the deputy leader positions are the gift of the party room, and I'm pleased to see that she had nominated as deputy. That is her right, because democracy is a very good thing. But Michael was elected deputy leader today unanimously, and he has my absolutely unqualified 100% support. We've worked together very well too over the course of the last decade or more.
Minister Ferguson's statement on Thursday seemed to imply that he was running with your support. Is that the case, and why didn't you want Elise Archer as your deputy then, noting those things that she had talked about, gender and geography?
Well, of course, I welcome anyone that wants to put up their hand for a leadership position. Michael put up his hand for a leadership position this morning and was successful, and I commend him for it. I can work with anyone and everyone in our team. We have a very capable team, a very united team, and I'm very proud of them. And as I looked around the room this morning, I saw a lot of diversity, a lot of commitment, and a lot of energy in each and every one of them that stood for Parliament to make a difference. And I would encourage everyone to step up when they feel the time is right to take on leadership positions.
But had any deals been done for Minister Ferguson to nominate himself as deputy and Elise step down?
There's been no deals. The gift of leadership is the gift of the party room.
You mentioned diversity, and yet here we've got two white blokes in suits, grey hair, no offence. How is that diverse? And wouldn't it have been better to have a woman at least as deputy or as treasurer? And isn't just finally as part of the same questioning, line of questioning, isn't the fact that the man next to you is treasurer and deputy a sign that you have indeed done a deal with the right of the party in order to take the top job?
No, it's not a sign of that at all. Michael has been Minister for Finance for some time and is a very capable person. And we have a lot of diversity, as I said, within our party room, my parliamentary colleagues, very committed people from diverse backgrounds, and I'm enormously proud of each and every one of them, and they are very committed to working as a team and with each other to ensure that we represent Tasmanians and that Tasmanians' priorities are our priorities. Tasmanians' priorities are employment, to ensure there are those opportunities increasingly to get a job in Tasmania. But also Tasmanians' priorities is health, education, our school system, housing, and that's our team's priorities as well, and we're unified in that aim to ensure that Tasmanians' priorities are ours.
Absolutely, I think they're Tasmanians' priorities. As I said before, you're in your third term. You've talked about using the dividends of the economy to feed back into these essential services. You've also mentioned being innovative. Do you have some big ideas yourself about how we might do things differently?
Quite clearly, my record would suggest that I am very open and like good, solid innovation and reform. I've demonstrated that in the portfolio of the responsibilities that I have. And when I see good ideas being put forward that can help Tasmanians, that can streamline and support better access and flow through our emergency departments and through our hospital system, I'll grab that opportunity, absolutely. So I am very committed and keen to lead a government that is courageous when it comes to reform and innovation to ensure that ultimately that leads to better outcomes for Tasmanians. And those areas across education that I've been responsible for, primary industries, health, of course, are working. And I've got some terrific examples, of course, in the mental health portfolio that on-the-ground reforms are working and being delivered.
last
3 years ago, do you intend to lead the Liberals to the next election? And how are you going to guard against the sort of burnout that seems to be a factor in the resignation of the last two premiers?
Absolutely committed, of course, to lead our team to the 2025 election. Of course I am. I wouldn't have put my hand up if that wasn't so. And I like elections. I'm enthused by them. They energise me. I've had 6 of them. And there's no better way of getting out and about, talking to your community, listening to the feedback of the community that makes you realise that you're doing the right thing, that you are in a position and putting yourself forward to make a real difference. So absolutely, I'll be there with bells on, Dave, in 2025. And there's been a lot of discussion, of course, about the busyness of modern political life. I'll lead by example. Mental health and wellbeing is important to me. It's important to everyone across the workforce. That time with family is important. Taking time out for yourself is important. And I'm a hard worker. I'm a farmer by trade, as any Northwest Coast farmer, cropping farmer would realise. In the height of the summer, the irrigation season, you're up before sunrise, you're bed, of course, late at night, and I'm no stranger to hard work. It's within me.
You're widely seen as a nice bloke, but you've got some very tough decisions, both in terms of relationship with the federal government, in terms of health and GST, and you've got some very tough budget decisions coming up. I mean, to what extent can you assure Tasmanians that there is an inner mongrel in there as well, and how would you, what would you point to as evidence of that? We don't seem to see much evidence of that.
Apart from 20 years in politics, Matt, that I've survived, and frankly, survived well, to the best of my ability. You know, I said I'm a farmer by trade. You know, I don't tend to use 2 words when one will do. Pretty upfront, you know, but what drives me, and I actually get excited by making the tough decisions that are necessary, because I know when you make those decisions, you're doing it for the right reasons. And I've had significant discussions and debates in the community on some education reforms. The evidence and data presented to me said this is the way to go, and I went for it, and that energises me. But 20 years is a long time in political and parliamentary life. I'm as energised as the day I was elected, which was the 20th of July 2002. I've had a lot of responsibilities through 12 years in opposition, 8 years in government, and there will be no fiercer defender of Tasmanians' interest than me. You know how passionate I am about this state. You know how committed I am to ensuring that everyone has that opportunity of a well-paid job. You know how committed I am to ensure that our vulnerable Tasmanians are looked after and supported. And you know how passionate I am about creating an inclusive community. And I do that with pride and determination, and that will continue.
You went to the last election promising stable government. We've had effectively 3 cabinet reshuffles in a couple of months. When will that stable government be delivered, A? And B, are you expecting to make wholesale changes in the cabinet, noting you've mentioned a couple of changes already, or retentions, I suppose?
Well, as I said, I looked around our team this morning, a very committed team. We are a stable government. We are delivering on our commitments. Yes, there's been some unexpected change. But we pick ourselves up immediately because we have the responsibility to do so. And people elect us and put their trust in our judgment. And they expect us when times are unexpected, there are times that are tough, they expect us to step up and get on with the job. And I'm committed to that.
Have you spoken to the outgoing Premier, Peter Gutwein, and how's he doing?
I spoke to the Premier this morning, and the Premier is well, and I've assured and thanked the Premier for his enormous commitment over 20 years of parliamentary and political life, and of course culminating in his incredible leadership over the course of the last 2 years in the toughest of times that could face any leader around the country, but certainly in this state.
Any words of advice from either Will Hodgman or Peter Gutwein about taking on this job? Have you heard from Will Hodgman?
I hear from Will Hodgman, of course, from time to time. He will be a long-lasting friend of mine, as Peter, of course, will be. You cannot work alongside people for such a long period of time and go through the ups and downs of losing elections, winning elections, and all the turmoil that is sometimes associated with a political life. But I'm my own person, and I will forge my own path.
Can you shed some light on the decision-making process? Did this take a second to decide? Have you always had leadership ambitions?
My ambitions really have been just to do a bloody good job of what I've been elected to do, coming into Parliament as a backbencher in opposition, if I can put it that way, working hard to win the next, well, be elected at the next election. Deputy Leader elected in 2006. Over the course of the last 16 years, I've been an immensely loyal deputy to both Will and, of course, Peter. Ministerial responsibilities, and of course, when the opportunity arises, you step up and you have a go, and I've done that very willingly. So my ambition have always been centred around the job that I've got at the time, to do the best possible job that Tasmanians expect me to do, quite frankly. They elect us to do a job. They know political life is tough. We've put our hand up for it. You've got to accept the bruises that goes with political life, and also that commitment to make a difference. And so I'm very pleased to have the role.
I imagine you'll be speaking to the Prime Minister before too long. I know he's busy, but I'm sure he'll say good day. What will you be asking him for in terms of commitments in relation to the GST and the no worse off guarantee extension of that, and also the push for 50-50 health funding is a very live issue.
It is a live issue, and we're committed to that. And
so what will you be saying to the Prime Minister in relation to those?
That we want a very good deal to support Tasmanians from Canberra. I will not resolve, as I haven't resolved, in my discussions around the tables with various health ministers federally, education ministers federally. I am in Tasmania's corner, well and truly, and that will be reflected in my discussions with the Prime Minister. Absolutely.
You mentioned that you are energetic and want to lead Tasmania to the 2025 election. Can you comment on the rumours that you have been ready to resign for quite some time, and firm up whether or not there was any pressure at all to stand as Premier?
Look, rumours about my retirement, as I think I've said before, have been circulating since about November 2005. Rumours are rumours, and people probably perceive someone that's been in Parliament for some time that their time is probably time to move on. That's not me. I wouldn't have stood in the last election if I wasn't committed to, of course, that 4-year term. and I'm committed to the 2025 election and the entirety of that term as well, should we be successful and I be successful as the candidate.
You're going to have a lot to do, but there's two federal seats that need securing for your side of politics. You're particularly popular in Braddon. To what extent will you have time to help out in the campaign federally for those two seats, but particularly Braddon?
Yep, I will be busy. I expect to be busy, have always been busy. But I've always supported people that have the courage to stand and or remain in Parliament. And we have two outstanding people in Gavin Pearce and Bridget Archer in both Braddon and Bass respectively. I'm very proud of them. They are very good grassroots, community-focused people that, quite frankly, thoroughly deserve to be re-elected. And of course, I will help out.
And sorry, but Minister Ferguson is from the northwest. How can you assure people from the south that they won't be disadvantaged under this new partnership?
Mr Gutman was from the north. I'm from the northwest. We have always governed for all Tasmanians, and that will stay. Of course it will, irrespective of where someone lives across Tasmania. We'll be looking out for you and supporting you, and we're all in this together. We're all Tasmanians. We're absolutely united and work together and supported each other through the disruption of the pandemic. That's going to continue, and I'm committed, of course, to govern for all Tasmanians.
Congratulations, Premier. Good morning, everybody. Well, I'm very grateful and I'm very humbled to be elected by my Liberal colleagues to serve as the Deputy Leader of the Liberal Party in Tasmania and to serve Tasmanians as best I can as Jeremy's Deputy Premier. I'm incredibly grateful for the support and the trust that's been shown in me and that has been expressed directly by my colleagues throughout this week. I want to be really clear, my job is to support Jeremy Rockliff as Premier and to help him succeed in every way in his important duties and in his challenging job. I can say that I agree with everything Jeremy has shared about our personal relationship. We've known each other for longer, but we've been friends and parliamentary colleagues working in the same house now for over 12 years, and we really understand each other. We greatly respect each other. That's always been the case, as a matter of fact. In fact, it's the case that I asked Jeremy to be the person who would launch my parliamentary campaign, my first state parliamentary campaign back in 2010. I'm sure you remember that, Jeremy, with all of my supporters, and I've admired his work and his personal ethics for a long time. It also has to be said that Jeremy deserves my thanks and our party's thanks, and I would say Tasmanians' thanks as well, for the fact that every success that you saw in Will Hodgman's time as Premier and every success that you saw in Peter Gutman's time as Premier, those achievements have been made possible because of the loyalty and the effort of Jeremy and our entire parliamentary team. And that's going to continue with our new leadership team. Jeremy is a real performer in the Parliament. He's an effective and diligent minister. He has made difficult decisions, particularly in the education reform space, which goes on now in his new roles. And I really want to sincerely congratulate you, Rocky, and your family, your beautiful family, on your elevation today as Tasmania's 47th Premier. I just know how proud they are of you. And I know that you will do great things for our beautiful state and, importantly, for the Tasmanian people. I'd also just like to take this opportunity to publicly thank my own family for their incredible love and support, especially my long-standing wife, Julie, some would say long-suffering wife, Julie, now for 27 years that we've been married. Without her incredible support, I just would not have been able to serve Tasmanians as I've been able to do in my roles. I love her so much, and our 3 children, our 2 boys and our daughter, we're a tight unit, and they have been many times sacrificial for me. Other parliamentarians would say the same. Our families miss out on a lot of quality time together because of our duties calling us away to Parliament and to be away from home for long lengths of time. And that generosity has enabled the leadership of Will and Peter and now Jeremy to be able to take Tasmania from being a nation laggard to a nation leader in so many ways, economically and socially. Our state's prospering because of the families that support and love us politicians, and that's why I want to make that big, strong message here today. Our party is a team of very passionate and professional Tasmanians. Our party members believe in the goodness and the potential of our state, of our communities and of our way of life. No matter how much progress that we make, there's always more to do, with different challenges that emerge, including ones that are not predictable, external challenges and threats. And they open up in front of us, they command our understanding, our compassion, and of course our leadership, so that we can respond to those and particularly support our community, our vested trust, and particularly as the new Premier has emphasised, people who are more vulnerable to those disruptions and those external changes. Jeremy and I are focused on the everyday needs of Tasmanians. We will keep our team working. We will keep our team united. We'll build on the very sound foundations that our government and our party established on coming to office in 2014, which was a pivot point for the state between failure and success. And in this leadership, drive and vision that Tasmanians cried out for and then strongly supported at each of those elections that came thereafter. Jeremy and I both share a very strong commitment, an unshakable commitment to the quality of life for Tasmanians, and we want everybody to flourish. Finally, I want to wish our new Premier every success. I know you'll do all Tasmanians proud, and you have the complete support of our United Party room. Happy to take a couple of questions before we go.
Minister, would you like to be Premier?
Look, I am so pleased for Jeremy. You don't get into Parliament without being ambitious. We're all ambitious, and what is so important is that we deliver that ambition for Tasmanians, that they benefit from our drive and work ethic. Jeremy will not have the problem that people like, famous federal leaders have had, where they've got to look over their shoulder. My role is to support Jeremy loyally, faithfully and thoroughly. He knows that he will never have to worry about me over his shoulder. I will be supporting him because I need him to be successful, so that our government can be successful, so that Tasmanians can continue to flourish. That is my position.
You took a couple of days to endorse him, though, as leader. Were you originally intending to stand as Premier?
I was actually hoping to get through to Friday without making any media comment. I really respect the party room process. I can say that Jeremy and I, as a fruition of our very strong personal relationship going back a long time, we've spoken through the week. I've spoken to each of my parliamentary colleagues. I did my own numbers, and I'm grateful and thoroughly grateful for the support that was indicated to me, and I want to say just how grateful I feel about that.
Elise Archer is someone who very seldom takes a backward step. What happened between Wednesday and today that persuaded her not to run for the deputy position?
Well, look, clearly that would only be a question that Elise could answer, but Elise is someone that deserves and has my huge respect, particularly for her strength and her grace of conducting herself as Attorney General and her many other responsibilities as well. She's been a champion for our party, and I can tell you from the party room today, there was a lot of goodwill to Jeremy, to me, and also to Elise, but to each other. We're a very tight unit. Don't ever try to come between us. We're a very tight unit, but we do have a democratic process. It is competitive, it's merit-based, and people express their views and make their selections, and politics can be tough. But there'll be no intrigue here, because our party If you were in the room there this morning, you'd have seen it yourself. Our party is very united, very committed to Tasmanians, not the politics, committed to delivering our plan, because that is what we're here for. Take one more.
The Liberal Party hasn't had a woman in a senior leadership position though for 20 years. Do you have a glass ceiling?
Look, what we've got is what I've described, look, there's a lot of support right around the room for our plan, and to make sure we've got the right personnel in the right roles. Naturally, the Premier will now give his own attention to who best to fill what ministries going forward, and to ensure that we have a focus not on politics, but a focus on the importance of delivering quality outcomes for the Tasmanian people so that every Tasmanian can flourish.
And how will you approach the role of Treasurer?
I'll conduct the role of Treasurer with the same enthusiasm and passion that our previous Premier and Treasurer Peter Gutwein has. Like Jeremy, I will forge my own path as well. Business certainty and confidence is king for me as we manage our finances and our economy going forward. We've had our economy got walloped during the pandemic, and yet we've risen again. We've risen out of that with one of the strongest economies in the nation, and an unemployment rate that hasn't been seen in my lifetime of 3.9%. So that will continue, the same sense of focus and discipline, but importantly, having been a health minister, having been a teacher in state education, having been a Tasmanian young achiever and a boy from the bush, I will be approaching the role of Treasurer with a hard head and a soft heart.
And how do you feel about handing down the budget? Have you got a lot of work ahead of you?
There is a lot of work to do. The budget parameters have largely been set already, prior even to the Premier's announcement. The budget will be delivered on time on May 26. There's still a lot of work to do. Naturally, I'll be throwing myself into the depths of briefings with Treasury, noting that I've been serving as Finance Minister until now, so I have a good handle on it and have been supporting the previous Treasurer in the development of the budget. There's a lot of work to do, but Tasmanians can be assured that the Gutwein discipline and focus on the importance of strong fundamentals, which underpins business confidence, which has given those stunning employment results for Tasmanians, will carry on into the future under the Rockliff government. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen.